Somewhere deep in the Romanian mountains, there's a sunken village underneath the wasteland of a nearby mine. Join me on a trip to the village of Geamăna, and until we get there, let me tell you its story. In the 1980s, former Romanian dictator Nicolae Ceausescu and the prospectors representing his government deciding to start exploitation of copper in Roșia Poieni, somewhere in northwest Romania. During communism, Romania, as the rest of the Eastern Bloc, along with the neighbors in the Soviet Union, was going through a huge industrialization process. Copper mining was promising, as more than 60% of the country's copper lies in the Apuseni Mountains, in this particular area. The nearby village of Geamăna, home to about 1,000 people, was the perfect place to dispose of the waste known as tailings. People who lived here thought they were going to get rich, but in reality the compensation they received in trade for their houses was smaller than what they initially thought. Their new houses they were given were farther away than they believed, and so they refused to move out. The state-run mining company owned the entire village after the residents essentially agreed to the financial compensation and relocation, and so they began to dump all the mining waste down the valley. The tailings contained heavy metals and other pollutants, posing a significant environmental risk. Streams of contaminated water started creeping through the streets and the lanes of this village, and yet the villagers refused to leave. As their houses continued to sink, they moved further up the hill and watched as the village was taken over by the waste. Here you can see the different shades that this water is taking. See the kind of brown there, and there's blue, and there's white. They don't quite mix up. I think perhaps they have different densities, or this is definitely some kind of oxide of sorts. Check out the stones here. The rocks, look. Some of them are just yellow, all kind of different shades. I was surprised to see that some people still live in the village today. These people drink what appears as clean water running through the streams. However, metals like cadmium have been found in the rivers kilometers away from this area. Needless to mention what kind of waste likely pollutes every drop of water in this village. I can still see there's some kind of settlement. I think that's the roof of a house of sorts. So I suppose that this area is still somewhat populated. Only a 2-minute walk away from a house, there's a stream of red water mixing with gray and teal waste. A huge pipe nearby still dumps waste over what used to be the village of Geamăna, as of right now in July 2023. By the way, look at this abandoned car. Look, wow. This is likely a car made in Romania. It becomes apparent to me that this isn't the residents' story of resilience that people portray in various documentaries. People understood the risks of living here, and yet they refused to live. Kids born here are doomed by their parents' ignorance more than 40 years after it became clear that the village was never to be recovered again from the millions of tons of powdered rock and waste metals. This place is an ecological disaster. What remains of this village lays underneath the 100 meters deep waste. The houses are now almost 100% swallowed, but you can still see the tower of the church, which was built on a hill. Imagine how many layers of waste keep hold of the houses of the 400 families who used to live here. Only if one could take a trip down the solid waste, the streets of this village will be uncovered, just as they were left when the village was gradually abandoned. The only thing that stops all the contaminated waste from flowing free into the country's rivers is this dam. If it does get damaged, an ecological disaster far bigger than this one is inevitable. I had to go to the mine to see it with my own eyes. However, the area, you guessed it, is not open to the public. The village of Roșia Montana lies at the bottom of the quarry. It's a relatively poor village with narrow hilly lanes, and it does indeed look like a dead end, especially for the new generations. However, fears are growing that the waste will eventually creep down this village. It will contaminate its waters and make it uninhabitable, just like its neighbor village of Geamăna. The road to the quarry is bumpy, and the area is closed and surveyed by cars and video cameras. We got 5 minutes to see what was the mine here at Roșia Montana, in the mountains of Romania. So we're gonna hurry up so we can get more time spending there. Here we go, this is the quarry of Roșia Montana, somewhere very high up in the Romanian mountains. It was a nice trip. Thanks for watching, I guess. One more look at the beautiful view. Look, there's cameras in there, so how crazy this is.